Um, Welcome to our Talk with Impact series. I am introducing Tracy Gosson, who is our speaker tonight. For more than 25 years, Tracy has been telling compelling stories about companies and cities with passion and precision. She's transformed brands and communities by listening and building solutions from the inside out, digging in with her trademark curiosity and compassion. She's an expert in converting wishes and desires into tangible tactics that produce real results. In 2019, she had to channel all of her passion and energy into converting her own wishes and desires into actions when she was diagnosed with stage 4 ovarian cancer. Within months of her diagnosis, she underwent an aggressive treatment that involved a 9-hour surgery using something called HIPEC that I'll let her describe. Since then, she's dug in and leveraged all her natural curiosity to learn as much as she can about health, food, and how to really listen to your body. I'm thrilled to share that she's been cancer-free for 3 years. That alone is no small feat, but Tracy's even gotten back on her beloved golf circuit and is winning matches left and right. When she's not burning up the course, Tracy is spending a lot of her time now talking about her experience and advocating for more research and research funding. Tracy, it's my great pleasure to welcome you to our Talk with Impact series. Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you, Jen. Wow, I hope I can live up to all that hype.
I'm sure you can.
Thank you. Thank you for the generous introduction. So I will clarify actually first. I was diagnosed in May 2019 with stage 4 ovarian cancer, and I have been clear of cancer since September 2019. So you can do the math on that. We're in 2022 now. So, but still no small feat comparing what the statistics are. So there's the way that Jen introduced me is a couple interesting things. So, I get this question all the time. Like, how did you survive that? Like, how did you find the will? And I always kind of look at people oddly and say, how could you not find the will? I mean, you're faced with a life or death situation, and I don't know too many people that wouldn't find a way to rise to the occasion, because what else are your options? And so, my philosophy on things is, in business, I'll give myself 24 hours to be mad or pout about something. In this situation, I gave myself a week and felt sorry for myself, and I was mad, and every emotion that you can think you would go through, I went through. And then, I was like, okay, I'm ready to dig in. Let's find the best doctors, find the best treatment, and talk to anybody that I can. And that's what I did. And so I'll tell you a little bit about what ovarian cancer is and a lot of the misconceptions about it. As it stands today, there is no diagnostic test for it, and there is no cure for it. So a lot of people think that a pap smear can test for ovarian. No, that can find cervical cancer, which is inside the uterus. The tricky thing about ovarian cancer is it's outside of the uterus, right? Where the ovaries are, kind of hang around the fallopian tubes. And basically you're inside your abdominal cavity, your peritoneal cavity. And so once you get stage 3, which means it's kind of left the ovary and it's traveling around in your abdominal area, as Southwest says, you're free to move about the country, right? You got a lot of things in your abdominal cavity that it can kind of go to. And what made me stage 4 was cancer fluid that I had so much fluid kind of building up inside of me, it pushed into my right lung. And so that means you've left the building and you've now entered another realm of the body. So that's not good. But with ovarian cancer, the symptoms are, gee, if you're over 50, tell me if you have these. I feel bloated. I'm tired and fatigued. My GI is a little off track. I feel a little more full eating. It can also have a sex pain with sex. I actually had a really weird face skin breakout that I had never had acne like that. So you can see why it's pretty hard to diagnose, which is why a lot of women get diagnosed late stage. to get caught stage 1 or 2 is kind of rare. But if you can, that's the best way to go, right? Because the treatment's going to be a little bit better. So I want to say this up front. This is a rule that women, men, everyone should have. If you have some sort of symptoms, something bothering you for more than 2 weeks, up to 2 weeks, go to a doctor. It may be nothing, it may be something, but don't let it go, which is what I did because I was working. I was very stressed out. I own my own marketing firm. So I was in the middle of 2 very big projects, and my bloating in my abdominal cavity, which I wrote off to perimenopause, as well as kind of being tired, was not that. I had, when I went to the hospital after I was diagnosed, they would drain my abdominal area in my lung. They call it a paracentesis. They stick a metal rod in you. And I would have this done every week for, I think, 5 or 6 weeks. And at one point they were taking out a gallon of fluid a week. And what that is that's the cancer is hijacking your lymphatic system. It's very greedy. Cancer cells want all the energy and resources that they can get. So once I had a CT scan, I had 2 tumors. One, I think was 8, 9 inches, and a second smaller one. So there were a lot of things going on that I didn't, honestly, I was still weightlifting. I was fully active. It's just amazing if you're in good shape, how much your body can keep functioning. So those are kind of the symptoms of ovarian cancer. What happens a lot for women is they get diagnosed as having some GI issue, right? Because in that abdominal peritoneal area, it's very tricky. I will share with you the best thing that you can do is make sure that your gynecologist does a thorough digital manual exam. That's one way to help find it, that they can kind of really feel around and see if there's any sort of growths in there. And if you think that there's something and you're not getting the answers, is you can ask for a vaginal ultrasound that can get the closest to the ovaries as possible. So I want to put that stuff up front. If you yourself, friend, family member has some of these just odd symptoms, and it doesn't matter the age, it's mostly women over 50, but I can't tell you how many young women that I see. And the challenge is when you're younger, you know, your cells are turning over much faster, which makes the cancer grow much faster and more aggressive. So it can be much more fatal for younger people. And, you know, when I was diagnosed, I went from diagnosis to my first chemo in 3 weeks. Living in Baltimore, very fortunate, right? Just were no loss for great medical institutions. I ended up going to Mercy Hospital in downtown. I did consult with a second opinion at Johns Hopkins. I decided kind of it wasn't for me, the atmosphere. It's a really big institution. And I'm very, very happy at Mercy. If I can give you a piece of advice there, if you want to know how good a hospital is, see how happy the nurses are in the support staff, because if they're happy, then everything from the top down is running very well. So I luckily actually had my neighbor who is an oncologist at St. Agnes, and I went to her first. And there's a blood test you can take called the CA-125. It's a protein biomarker that can be used for ovarian cancer, but it doesn't work for everyone. It works for me. But some people can have a low number and still test positive for cancer. So you don't want anything over 35. And by the time I started chemo, I was up to 1,400, which is not good. It went from 800 to 1,400 in 2 weeks. So that'll give you an idea of like how fast this cancer was growing at this stage. So Carol was amazing. She is still amazing. And she helped me navigate. She got me in for a second opinion at Hopkins. Here's the oncologist you should see. You should consider these different kinds of treatments. And I just, is you should do in this situation, you reach out to everyone that you know that you think may know someone, have some information, can give you some insight, because time is not on your side and you need to move fast, particularly in my situation. And so I ended up with really the best, Dr. Ladakis at Mercy. He used to work at NIH. The man is amazing. He will sit and talk to you as long as you need, making you feel like you're the only one of his patients, even though he probably has 500 at a time. And we started chemotherapy immediately. And yes, you can mark your calendar in 2 weeks to the day your hair will fall out, all of it. And it kind of actually hurts. And you think it will never grow back, but it does. This is actually, I had a recent haircut, so it was getting pretty long. And so the bloating stopped, but because my cancer was so aggressive, I was getting chemo every single week. Normally, like most people, you know, with breast cancer or most cancers, you'll get it every 3 weeks. Well, they wanted to like get this in me quick. Chemo is no joke. It will completely destroy you. And so I thought, all right, I'm going to get the best doctors and I got to be part of this solution. I mean, that's just sort of my way, right? I wasn't just going to sit back. And so I dug into, if they're going to give me these drugs, they're going to practically kill me to save me. What can I do on my side? Things that I can control that can kind of help the fight. And I focused in on nutrition. There's a great book by William Dr. Lee. His last name is L.I. He has a great TED Talk, and he recently wrote a book. Actually, it came out right before I was diagnosed, called Eat to Beat Disease. And it's all about scientific information about food. It's not a diet, but I read this book and I listened to a bunch of his presentations. And so I came up with this list of foods. These are amazing cancer fighting foods. Green tea, berries, you know, colored things, eat the rainbow, plant-based. And so I had said, okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to hire a private chef, because everyone that you talk to will say, you're going to be so knocked out, wiped out, you're going to have no energy. And it was really the best thing that I did. So I found this amazing chef. Her name is Chef Lori. If you want to follow her on Instagram, she's great. And she's a vegetarian. So, wow, I would have run out of things to eat in about 5 days. Because at the time I was, you know, eating a lot of plants, but I was still eating kind of animal protein. So, oh my gosh, it was the best decision I made, because I stayed on track and I cut out everything that wasn't vital. No alcohol, no processed sugar, very minimal animal protein. It was a little fish and a little dark chicken meat, based on what I read in Dr. Lee's book. You know, no real carbohydrates. I really, really buckled down. And then I ramped up on a lot of supplements and vitamins. And what happens is you get all these weird side effects from chemotherapy. Your hands can get numb. It's called neuropathy. And then of course, potentially get nausea. I mean, the list is ridiculous. And so I was just, you know, green smoothies and salads and all these supplements. And I had to figure it out all on my own. Now, today, I actually have an oncology naturopathic doctor. So I have a medical oncologist and a naturopathic oncologist. I wish that I had found her earlier, but I'm glad to have her now. And so I'm not totally figuring it out on my own anymore, although I actually did a pretty good job of finding things online. Private Facebook groups. Oh my gosh. I mean, Facebook is a complete ridiculous platform, but in that arena that you could actually talk and connect with people going through the same thing, no matter where they are. And you can ask questions, like find out, wow, everyone's having this same symptom, even though the doctor's like, yeah, we don't really hear that too much. Your GI tract, oh, it just wreaks havoc on your body. So went through all that. And in this process, I said, okay, I know I'm going to have surgery, right? So the idea is have chemo, shrink down the tumor, and make it so it's easier to get inside your abdomen and take things out. So we knew we're going to have a radical hysterectomy, right? That whole thing's got to go. I was 52 at the time. I'm totally fine with that. So I found this process. The acronym is HIPEC, and it stands for hypothermic intraperitoneal chemotherapy. And this is fun. So what they do is they cut you open. It's like a 16-inch scar, right? From right underneath your breastbone to right above your pubic bone. And this Dr. Sardi at Mercy, this man is amazing. He will cut you open, takes everything out of your abdomen. Small intestine, large intestine, looks, inspects everything, cuts out if there's any residual cancer, any scar tissue, takes out everything, puts it all back in. I also had to have resection my lower rectum because that second tumor was pushing up against it. And so they were afraid that that had cancer too. So they cut it out, stitched that together. So they take chemotherapy, they heat it to 107 degrees, and they put these rods inside of you. They kind of base stitch that big scar up, and then it runs through this box. So it stays at a constant 107. And then you're on the table for 90 minutes with this hot chemo running through you, because cancer cells can't live above like 106 degrees or something. And they roll you all around the table. This is when the surgeon takes the break. And they call it, the acronym internally is called the shake and bake. Yeah. So we're going to roll you all around the table, want the chemo to get like where the problems are, right? And gets in all the little nooks and crannies. They take it out, they suction it out, they staple you up. This is the most aggressive cancer treatment that you can have for anything kind of in that abdominal cavity. They use it for lung cancer. It's used for pancreatic cancer. It's super intense. The recovery from it, yeah, it's also super intense. So I was in the hospital for, I think 8 days after the surgery. I was in ICU for 2 days because right after surgery, you know, they want you up and walking, which is like, seems so ridiculous, right? But you're on enough drugs, thankfully, that you think you can do it. I passed out in ICU because my blood counts were so low, because that's one of the things that chemo does. And so I got to stay there an extra day. And then they are just physical therapy, occupational therapy, up, let's get around, let's walk the halls. And so I was like, okay, I'm down with this. Anytime anyone came to visit me, I was walking the halls, because they will not let you leave the hospital until you have a bowel movement, which when I mentioned about that resection on the lower rectum, yeah, it kind of closes everything up. So that was interesting. But the best part is when my doctor came in to see me, I think I must have been in there 3-4 days, and I was shocked at, like, I was like feeling pretty normal. I'm up walking around. He's like, oh, how you doing? I'm like, yeah, not so good. Like, this was pretty serious. And he's like, he's from Colombia, so he has this great accent. And he's like, oh, he goes, I basically ran over you with a truck. I backed up and ran all over you again. That's funny. That's not the way you told it to me when I first met with you before the surgery. Ha ha ha. But he's right. I mean, outside of going to shock trauma, this is probably as about traumatic as you can get. But the key is cancer is aggressive, and you have to be aggressive too. So I get out of the hospital, and it is a slow recovery, trying to just get up and move, get out of bed with a 16-inch scar. Don't use your abdominal muscles. It was slow going, and your blood counts are really low. One thing I did not realize is when you have low red blood counts, it can send you into a state of depression because you have such a lack of oxygen. I mean, I would kind of pull water out and a glass out in the kitchen, and I'd have to sit down. I'd be so winded, exhausted. And so I had to go into the hospital a couple of times and get blood transfusions, which at one point, I mean, I was like, I'm never going to get better. This is awful. I shouldn't have done this. I want to jump in front of a bus. And then I had 2 pints of blood, and I was like, oh, well, I feel much better now. So I will say to you, if you are of a person that is willing to do this, please donate blood. Right now, all the hospitals are so low on blood, and someone like me in that situation, right now, it would be very challenging for me to get blood because it's saved for major surgeries and kind of, emergency issues. So, oh my gosh, tell all your friends, anyone that you can get, to donate blood. It's just needed so desperately. So that was the surgery healing. It was really hard, slow going. It was very frustrating because I wanted to get back in the game. But as Jen said, if you can't even believe it, but 2 months later, around Thanksgiving, I was swinging a golf club, which was ridiculous. That's the recovery of that. It was hard. It went on for several months. I had a lot of GI challenges and issues, and so much trial and tribulation on how I can fix this and work this. But in the scheme of things, both of my doctors will tell you, I responded extremely well to chemotherapy. I responded extremely well to the surgery. I recovered faster than most. And that has a lot to do with the state of my health coming into the game, right? I was in really pretty good health. I was very active. I did a lot of weight resistance. The Greek philosophy that food is medicine, it's a real thing. And it really does make a difference. So today, I probably eat more sugar than I should, not nearly as much as the average person. I don't really drink anymore. It's not good. It's not good for you in general, and just, it's not good for cancer. I'm still very heavily plant-based, and I focus in a lot on that. And, I will say, as a professional woman, talking to other professional women, I was born in 66, right? So I'm kind of like an 80s, 90 kid. And, so much of my perception about myself and who I was tied to how much money I made, right? How successful I was and how much money I made, and having my own business. And every year I'm going to make more money and have more clients and kind of build the caliber, and everything comes to a screeching halt, something that you can't control. And the other thing that cancer loves is stress. So how do we take the stress down a lot of notches? And it's taken me, I'm still dealing with it, but it's taken me some time to come to terms with Tracy's not making really much money. And what does that mean about me and my self-worth? So I struggle with that still a little bit, but I do focus a lot of energy around ovarian cancer advocacy, HIPEC advocacy, letting people know about this treatment. It's really, I'd say only in the last 5 years, more people have heard about it. Dr. Sardi, who did my surgery, he's been doing it for 25 years. I went to a consult, second opinion after I was treated down to MD Anderson, and even they don't do it, which is pretty unbelievable. They don't do it for ovarian cancer. And so I spent a lot of time with that in the Ovarian Cancer Research Alliance. I do a lot of lobbying on the federal level for funding for research. What's interesting about ovarian cancer is if you go all the way back to the 70s, ovarian cancer and breast cancer had the same, what do they call, progression-free survival and survival rates. It wasn't very good. Maybe, only a 20% kind of survival rate. Well, you can see what's happened to breast cancer, right? Breast cancer now has a 90% survival rate, which is amazing and so wonderful. But all the advocacy and fundraising that's gone behind it, sadly, ovarian cancer outcomes haven't changed at all, really, since the 70s and 80s. So that is something that's super important. And it's just knowledge, making sure that other women know about it, making sure that participate in a program called Survivors, teaching students, where we talk to med students, third-year med students, and kind of tell our personal stories. Because every time I do one of these presentations, every single woman was missed. I was missed. I was actually under the care of a gynecology oncologist, and he missed my diagnosis. I'll throw on top of that, a little cherry on top of that. Not only do I have ovarian cancer, but I have a much more rare type of cancer, which is called carcinosarcoma, which is carcino is cells, sarcoma is soft tissue. So that means my cancer can come back at the cellular level, which is what most is, or at the soft tissue level, which is bones, ligaments, skin. So I'm kind of hard to track, right? Because we don't know where it can come back. As it stands today, I have been on a series of maintenance drugs. I was on a drug called Avastin for 18 months, IV every 3 weeks. I still have my port. Can you see it? It's right there. I had one. The first one got infected. We took that one out. So no strapless dresses for me this summer, or any summer really. And so that is how they give you chemo, right? So they don't have to kind of damage your veins. It's just, they plug it right in like a socket, like an outlet. And so I had Avastin IV for 18 months. We took a break over the summer, which was glorious. It was the first time that I was not on any drugs, going back, almost 2 years. And I felt amazing. My hair just like blew up, and it was great. I was playing really good golf. And then I just started a new drug. You'll see, this is what's funny now, is I'm the person that they're talking to on television about Zejula and Lynparza, PARP inhibitors. That's me. So I was taking Zejula, not working out very well for me. I had to stop because my arms were numb from my shoulders all the way down to my hands. That's when I was like, I think this drug's not working for me. So we're going to try a new one next week. And so I'll probably have to be on some type of maintenance drug for a long time. And, I want to say this to you, because this is actually very important. I don't care what kind of cancer it is. Cancer is not a death sentence. Cancer, as they want you to think of it today, and I love this, is it's a chronic disease like asthma or diabetes, right? You manage it. So you initially get it, you go at it with everything you got. Hopefully you stay in remission, or as they like to call it, no evidence of disease, NED. And if it comes back, reevaluate the situation, see what the latest and greatest drugs and treatments are, and we'll go at it again. And maybe you'll stay on a maintenance drug to kind of keep it at bay. Everything is about this progression-free survival. How long can we extend the time until this comes back? So that's what cancer is about. So should you or anyone that you know and love be diagnosed with cancer, there's so much in the arsenal now. And I'll leave with this kind of last piece is about what's on the horizon for drugs. And this is one of the committees that I'm on for the Ovarian Cancer Research Alliance. And this is so fascinating and so hopeful. The things that are on the horizon, there's actually, one of them is out of Baltimore. It's called Cancer Seek. The other is the Gallieri test, one blood test that can test for up to 30 to 40 cancers. And they're having a very, very high success rate. Gallieri is on market now. It's, I think it starts at like $1,000 a blood test. Your insurance company is not going to pay for it. But if you have some sort of hereditary issues, but that, I mean, that's what we've been wanting for decades, right? So that's on the horizon. That's coming quickly. That's amazing, because the sooner you can catch cancer, the better your outcomes are for survival. The other test that's coming out, and this is something that I've had a lot of discussions with my oncologist about, and I finally beat him down, and I'm getting this test. It's a test looking for circulating cancer cells in your blood. There's several different names. Some people call it the Greek test, but there's one in the US, it's called the Natura Signatura test. And what this does is they take pathology from your surgery, right? So the hospital always holds on to that, because I've had so much testing about genetic, somatic, genomic, what are my mutations? I know what all of them are. It's just that most of them, they don't know how to treat them, right? So you've heard of BRCA, BRAC1, BRCA1 and 2 gene, that's usually related to breast cancer. And you'll see some women may have ovarian cancer in the BRCA gene, and they'll get a prophylactic mastectomy because it's very likely that it's going to come back. So there's a lot of new information out there, which is so exciting. But this blood test that I'm going to get is going to look at my pathology. They'll take blood from me and they will create a custom profile for me that says, this is my cancer, these are all my mutations. And then I will get this blood test. I think it's every 6 months to try and chart and see, is there cancer cells circulating through my blood system or not? And my doctor was very concerned about, why do you want this test? And I said, because I want to know. I'm already living on this kind of high alert state of, I eat a bag of potato chips and I'm like, gosh, I really shouldn't have done that, and that's stupid, but that's where your head is at when you're in my situation. And I said, knowledge is power. I want to know. And I also want to know, is it negative? Like, is what I'm doing working? Because I'm doing a ton of things. And if it's positive, what I said to him is, there are other naturopathic things that I could do, and I might dive deep into that and see if I can head it off. Because if you can find out that you have cancer before it shows up on a scan, again, it's all about timing, right? So I will say that what's happening with science on the horizon is really incredible. Yes, pharmaceutical companies, it's insane. I mean, I take one pill and it's $250 a pill, and they want you to take 2 a day. I mean, my insurance covers it, thankfully, but it's stuff. It's a racket. So that's me. That's my situation. And I don't know if anybody has questions or wants to say that was really boring.
Tracy, thank you so much. It was actually amazing. I took a bunch of notes. And
Oh, good.
I know we have a nurse on the line, and I know we have some people that have had other experiences in the medical world. So I'm sure there are some questions. So folks, please, I didn't see anything in the chat, but please feel free to unmute and chat with Tracy.
Nurses are the best.
That's my daughter-in-law, Brittany.
Yeah, so I'm a nurse and newly nurse practitioner. When you were talking about how you speak to medical students, I think it's great because I learn something new every single day, and just refresher on kind of the workup for ovarian cancer and some of the more common signs and symptoms, and everything was good for me to hear all again. And I definitely learned some new things, and I hope at some point, like colon cancer, lung cancer, breast cancer, there's got to be a screening tool at some point for it, because like you said, the survival rate is just too low for us to not do anything or not figure out how to screen patients for it. So I really enjoyed your talk. Thank you.
Thank you. Brittany, I'll tell you that Natura Signatura test, that is the one that has had, it's been approved by the FDA, and Medicare covers it for colon cancer. So if you know anyone that has colon cancer or has had it, that is a test that they can get paid for, that can potentially identify it before it comes back.
Awesome. Thank you. I wrote that down.
Great. Anyone else?
Thanks, Tracy. That was amazing.
It was fantastic. And
yeah, I really appreciate your taking the time. And I think I was most struck by the idea that, breast cancer has made such strides, in the last couple of decades, and sort of left those other things behind. And that hardly seems fair, that there's got to be a way to sort of even out, that, because the humans are all the same, so we've got to do better there for sure. But thanks again for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
And I hope you'll keep us plugged into the events you're doing and the different initiatives that you've got going, so we can try and do our best to support.
Yeah. Is everybody here from all over the country, or?
Let's see, tonight we've got Delaware, South Carolina, Virginia. So yeah.
Well, I'll definitely, because, what we have a lot of times is at the state of the federal government right now, we ask these different legislators in the House and the Senate to sign on to these letters to support increased funding. And, there's some states that it's tough.
Yeah, well, I know GFWC, the General Federation of Women's Clubs, that our group is a part of, has a very active legislative awareness group. And so, you know, certainly we can at least look into tapping into some of that to spread the word.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, my next lobbying day is, it's actually in a couple weeks. And so it's still on Zoom. We don't do it in person, but it's pretty interesting. Because I've done it now for a couple of years, and you'll get these staff people and they're like, oh yeah, how are you doing? I remember talking to you, last year, 2 years ago. So it actually does work, and I'll get emails back like, yes, I talked to the senator and he's going to sign on and we're really supportive of it. And that one-on-one connection, it's a lot of work, but it actually does have an impact.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for doing what you're doing. It's amazing.
Yeah, Tracy, it was phenomenal talk. I mean, I was laughing and reacting, and I was frustrated that I didn't have a one-on-one with you, but it was amazing. And Kitty, I'm hoping that whenever we post this, wherever we post this, the Dr. Lee and the Chef Lori, those kinds of links and stuff would be kind of fun to.
Oh yeah, Jen, I can send those to you.
Cool.
That'd be
Yeah,
wonderful.
that's awesome. So,
Yeah.
So if you had one vitamin that, I know you're on a whole assortment and a whole army of things. If you had one thing, what would it be?
Wait, so I got to show you this. So I have a naturopathic oncologist I mentioned. And so she's like, take all these things at different times, right? So backwards. But so this is my list. And it's like, here's what I take with no food, with food in the afternoon.
Oh my gosh.
And, and these things that you're supposed to focus on, which is vegetables, fiber, turmeric, ginger, garlic, cinnamon, all these anti-inflammatory things. That's, I don't care what your health situation is. We're all dealing with this inflammation issue, right? That's a big alcohol thing, dairy thing, sugar thing. But if I had to, if I had to say one, I'd say it's probiotic.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, okay.
Because so much research is coming out now that it's all in the gut health. They're even tying it to Alzheimer's and things. They're calling Alzheimer's like diabetes 3 and stuff. So if you're eating well, or at least trying to eat well a little bit, you'll get a lot of vitamins from them that you don't need a multivitamin, but that probiotic, I have a little bit of kefir. That's really the only dairy unless I'm eating cheese. But kefir or what's the kimchi, those fermented things, all that stuff about your gut bacteria. I'm telling you, your whole GI will pay you off benefits. We'll leave it at that.
That's awesome. Did you use any of Tom Brady's stuff in your research?
No, I didn't. He's too much of an ultimate athlete for me. But like a big one for me was I loved coffee. Oh my gosh. Even now the smell of coffee, I'm like, oh, it smells so good. But when I read that book and it's going to tell me that the number one thing that you can do for cancer is green tea. Okay. I'm going to start green tea and matcha. So I have matcha tea in the morning and then green tea in the afternoon. And it's this component, and then they're called ECGC. You can take a supplement for it, but why not actually have it? And it's a specific kind of green tea. It's sencha green tea. So if you read Dr. Lee's book, and it's cancer is just a small piece of it. It talks about all sorts of different things, but it's just a good primer being like, oh yeah, I probably should eat more like legumes or whatever,
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's great. Well, thank you so much, Tracy, for joining us tonight and for all the great information. And we'll look forward to seeing more because we'll do our best to support.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone. I appreciate your time. And just remember what I said. If it's you, friend, family member, 2 weeks, that's the limit, right? You have health insurance, get yourself to the doctor and get the ball rolling. You're working way too hard and you got too much on the line to not give 100% of attention to yourself like you do to everything else.
Thanks for that reminder as well. Some of us
Okay.
guilty of that.
You didn't get where you are by, not working hard.
All right. Well, thanks again. Great to see everyone.
Thank you.